I must have been 6, 7 years old. And I vividly remember that I was taking a shower. And when I was a kid, I used to shower with the door to the bathroom open just in case something happens or I need help. And mom liked to sort of supervise that too, since we were small and stuff. And I remember that I could hear that she had stepped in. I think she was like taking out the trash or something while I was taking my little shower. And she was like, "So how you doing in there?" And I said, "I'm fine. But I have a question." And she was like, "Okay, what's up?" And I said, "So when we die, are we born again?" And the reason I asked her that is because one of our family members had recently passed away. I had a thought about, if we're family and we are all related, then does that mean that we have been the same people walking on earth since forever, but we just happened to look a little different? Let's say that a great grandparent is actually me, but it took me like 5 more turns for me to be born again. Therefore, for it to be my turn again. See what I mean? I had a weird way of looking at life and death when I was a kid. But I just remember asking her specifically, since that family member just died, I was like, "So are they going to be born again next time a family member is born? Or will it take 20 years, 30, 50 years? Or must all of us who are alive and remember him now die so that he has a chance to respawn?" And then she was like, "As great as your thoughts and ideas sound, no, it doesn't work like that. No, you're not born again." And I said, "Well, if we're not born again, then what's the point? This is it? Like, I only get one chance at life? But if we die and we go to heaven, are you still going to be my mom when you go to heaven?" So needless to say, this was a conversation that was getting complicated very quick. I just remember that mom said something about, well, that's when the whole discussion about spirituality and religion kicks in. And I'm not going to completely tell you this is what happens, but it's something for you to think about so that when you get a little older, you can ponder once again and you kind of have like a starting place with this topic. But now, I guess would be a great time to catch up with her and be like, "Ma, do you happen to remember that time that I asked you what happens when we die? And you told me that I should wait until I'm a little older." Well, I like to think that I'm considerably older now. So let's have this discussion now, because over the years, my thoughts on it, nothing is set in my mind. If you were to tell me that you have a specific belief of what happens when you die, I'll be like, hell yeah, that makes sense. And then somebody else may say something completely different. And I'm like, seems legit. I can be convinced by that as well. So for me, when it comes to that topic, I don't personally have an opinion about that. I refuse to believe that consciousness just ceases to exist the moment that you die. Well, what I mean by consciousness is, sure, your body as a carriage of your soul is over, like that's done. But sometimes I think, let's say that I happen to die and there is a female cat about to give birth. Do I find the next soul about to pop out, and that's the soul that I inhabit, but this time around, as opposed to being a human, now I have the soul and capacity of just a cat? See what I mean? Or am I going to be born to someone close by, say at the hospital here? The moment that I die, my soul and consciousness is just gonna like teleport to the person that's getting ready to be born right this second. Sometimes I like to believe that the very second that I'm dead, someone was just born, and my being, like my soul, my energy, just somehow makes it into that next place. It's kind of like water. The water that's in this planet has been pretty much the same water that's been here the entire time. perhaps a rock that falls here from space may have a little bit more water, and maybe that water is added to the planet. I don't think that we lose water from within the planet unless something extreme were to happen, like are we traveling closer to the sun and more water goes evaporated? Or every time that we go out into space, we take water with us. If we lose stuff in space, do we lose that water too? That's getting too complicated, too messy, really fast. Let's not dwell on that necessarily, but see what I mean? So I'm thinking that the same souls that have existed in the planet have been the same souls since forever. But the only issue I take with that is that since at this moment in history, it seems like this is the most populated Earth has been, have new souls been born, or have these souls been existent, but they were just waiting for their turn to be deployed? No matter how critically I try to think about this, I can always think about a counter. We are the same number of people that have existed this entire time, but what if my lineage happens to have 10 kids? Are these people making up for a period in which we had some pending souls that simply did not have a body available for them? Or do we not count the folks who may not have the ability to think like some of us do? Like, say, those who have a degree of emotional, mental disability. Do those folks not count as having a soul since they're not functional to manifest what they're supposed to manifest as a pre-existing soul? See what I mean? I don't know, you guys. This is not a serious topic by all means, by any stretch of the imagination. Don't take it too seriously. I like to speculate about that type of thing. So just know that when I was a kid, I asked mom that question, and I think she handled it as intelligently as she could with her available resources at the time. I just remember being in the bathroom, taking a shower, and all of a sudden going like, so yeah, when we die, are we born again? Because I was convinced that it was like a video game. You die and you get to respawn, but maybe you don't get to respawn to your family. You just respawn to someone else's family. So say in this life, I'm an American, but maybe in my next life, I could be in Asia somewhere. Why wouldn't we all get an opportunity to live different lifestyles? Why don't we get to live at some point as some kind of indigenous person, at another time something that's completely unrelated to you? Like maybe you don't have any relatives from the Far East. You get an opportunity to be someone from the Far East. But there's also a part of me that thinks that you kind of stick to what's normal to you. This time around, I tend to look and sound the way that I do, but if I were to be born again, I like to believe that I will retain a lot of my traits. Kind of like Link in The Legend of Zelda. He keeps resurrecting, but he keeps resurrecting looking like the same person. I like to think that if I think about this spiritually, if the way that I believe in the spiritual realm is the way it's supposed to be, I like to think that this has been my face the entire time. This has been my face, this has been my voice, this has been my body type, shape, way of thinking. The only thing that's different perhaps is my customs, like what language is acting upon me, what community is around me, things like that. But I really like to believe that my current person is not too strayed from what I have been. I cannot imagine a life in which I look or sound any different than what I am. And trust me, I try hard to imagine things like that. I'd like to think that I'm good at imagining those things, but I just can't. I can't imagine myself as a male, for example. Even though I posted that one video ages ago about what I think it would be like to be a man instead. And as much as I tried that thinking exercise, it was just difficult for me to try to imagine a life that's not mine. I can't imagine a life in which my eye color is different or my hair type is different, even though I can modify my hair temporarily to be a certain way for that to naturally belong to me. No. So yeah, you guys, I thought I would share that because it's one of those topics that is pretty fascinating because you can keep going with it forever. But there's someone out there who may try to convince you that their way of looking at things, their religion is what's correct. And for me personally, I think that nuance has to exist for a reason. And I think it's so that we have the ability to think a little differently. I'm not sure. You guys can have at it in the comments. I may or may not engage. I really don't have much else to add. But me personally, I do think that the life that I'm living currently is not the exact life I have been living the entire time, but I think that physically, I just keep respawning looking like this, and my parents look pretty much the same. Maybe in another life, my dad, instead of being a cop, maybe he's a musician instead. Like, whatever we inherit from our lineage, say my lineage is one of educators, musicians, military personnel, pilots. Maybe in this life, I had to be a failure and not do any of that. Had I pursued something, I probably would have ended up as an educator. Since I'm not an educator in this life, or I may be manifesting as an educator, just not exercising the profession, maybe next time I respawn, I'll be a pilot. I don't know. Again, don't take it seriously, but it's fun to speculate.